Okay, we should be live. If you are watching, welcome to our live stream. I know I said that Touring Plan statistician Steve Bloom was going to be with us today, but surprise! You get both of our stats guys. You get Fred Hazelton as well. This is very exciting.
But okay. I'm going to let Steve do all the work, so it's fine.
Fred's just going to be a pretty face today. Yes, so we are going to talk about our touring plans because I feel like we get a lot of questions about them, and so I really wanted to take today to answer those questions. I asked on Instagram what your questions were about our touring plans and about the Lines app, where you can use the touring plans in the parks. You can also print them out, which a lot of people do. And I received several questions, so I sent them to the guys, and we are going to answer them. So if you are watching, tell us where you are watching from. We are going to be following along in the comments. We will address your questions in the comments as well, but we do want to get to the ones that were pre-asked since they take priority. I'm going to get to our video on YouTube just so I can see that as well. And then we'll kind of just get started here. But I see a few people have joined us already. I see Dallas, I see Dee. Dee's follows us a lot here on Instagram and on YouTube, so it's great to see you, Dee. And I see Sarah. All right, so I'll pull up the questions. I will play moderator today because my knowledge is nowhere near what it is for Steve and Fred. So that will be my job today. Okay, so first question is, why would a touring plan have it Spaceship Earth at Rope Drop and not Test Track or Soarin'? Why would that show up in a plan? Would it show up in a plan? Which one of you wants to take that question today?
I'll start, and Fred can certainly chime in.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense to me either. Okay. So likely the start time wasn't set correctly on the plan. Or the other thing that happens with some plans, especially if you're planning to rope drop and be at the park early, the plans don't do great on that first step because it doesn't know that you're going to be ahead of the crowds at rope drop. So it's going to assume it's going to take you 9 minutes to walk to Soarin', and by the time you get there, there's going to be 1,000 people ahead of you. There's another question coming up, and basically my recommendation is if you know you're going to rope drop, you're going to be at the park early, and that you're going to be ahead of the pack, and you want to go straight to Soarin', don't even put Soarin' in your touring plan. Make your touring plan start with step 2, right? Rope drop, get right to Soarin', be off at 9:02, and then start your plan.
Now, would you suggest that for, I'm sorry to interrupt, would you suggest that for pretty much any rope drop attraction like Flight of Passage or Seven Dwarfs Mine Train?
Yes. The same thing happens is that our software doesn't know where you're going to be in that opening pack. So it assumes that you're going to start at so typically at rope drops, Disney will let you into the park before it opens. So like in Epcot, they'll hold you back right at Spaceship Earth. So if you show up at Epcot at 9 o'clock, you've already got this huge pack of people ahead of you that were in the know and arrived early. So even if, a typical person, why would you show up at 8 o'clock if it says Epcot doesn't open until 9 o'clock? And we have talked on our side about somehow being able to indicate, yes, I promise, I really will rope drop. I will be at the park early.
Because this is the flip side of it, right? Is that, this, what Steve is suggesting works great, but you got to make sure you're in that first wave, like first 10, 20, 30 people. Because if not, then you could be in trouble because there's, a lot of people that are trying to do the same thing. So, that's kind of the flip side.
So, sorry, did you have to add to that?
I was going to say another kind of theme in a lot of my answers to these questions you sent me is to re-optimize. That if you're going to do this strategy and not put your first attraction in, once you get off that attraction, it may be 9:03, it may be 9:30, it may be 10 o'clock. So once you leave the attraction, hit optimize, and it's going to say, okay, it's 9:15. Your next attraction should be Test Track.
Well, what I did notice is in the plan, you can kind of put where you will be at the start of your plan. Does that make a difference at all?
Well, it's going to... So one thing that the software does is calculate the time between attractions. So the software is deciding, is it worth your extra walking time to save waiting in line? So, the closest attraction to Soarin' is Nemo, but Nemo may never get over a 10-minute wait, so it's going to tell you to do Nemo later. It may tell you to go all the way over to Test Track because the wait times still are low. So if it knows you're already at Soarin', it's going to say, okay, from Soarin', it's going to calculate the distance to every other attraction, add the wait time when you get there, and what's going to be the shortest combination of walking and waiting. Okay.
But because rope drop, you're already in the park for rope drop, and the app doesn't calculate that. If you know you are going to be within that first 10 to 30 people in line, then just don't put that first attraction.
That's what I would recommend.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to our next question. How do I execute picking up an extra FastPass Plus reservation and following your plan at the same time?
So what the extra FastPass is, for people that don't know, after you use your initial 3 FastPasses, if there's FastPasses available, you can grab a 4th, 5th, or 6th, or whatever. Supplies are going to be limited, so the chance of you getting a great FastPass is pretty low. But if something pops up that you want, definitely grab it. If it's in your plan already, you can add it and re-optimize and make that FastPass fit into your plan. If the ride's not in your plan, go ahead and hit Space Mountain at your 12 o'clock FastPass. Get off the ride and then just re-optimize your plan and basically abandon your plan for that extra FastPass and then re-optimize and you'll be just fine. One of the complaints people give us about, they don't want to be super planners and have to be tied to a plan. The optimizer makes it really flexible, really. So, don't feel like you have to live or die by a plan. You can kind of wing it some of the times and just re-optimize and then be back on schedule without destroying your day.
Yeah, even if you are a super planner A-type, like most of us are, when you go, there's going to be bumps in the road, right? So if something takes a little bit longer, maybe there's a temporary problem in one of the queues or something, that re-optimization button is your friend no matter what the situation is. We typically recommend that people do that at least a few times a day, if not more.
Yeah, that was going to be my question to you, Fred, is a big question we get is how many times should I re-optimize throughout the day? And you would say at least 3 times, if not more.
At least, and you can't do too many. I mean, it has to, so just keep doing it. Why not? You could do it every time you finish an attraction. Why not? Because there are certain situations where things can happen, especially early in the day. Probably later in the day, it might not make as much of a difference, but certainly earlier in the day, like this rope drop example, every minute counts so much for how long it's going to take you the rest of the day that it's a good idea to re-optimize every attraction in that morning rush.
Yeah, and another thing to point out is if you like the order of your attractions, and say you're a hardcore TouringPlans fan, you've used these a ton, you know what to do, you like the order of your attractions, you can hit evaluate, and that will keep your attractions in the same order and won't move them around like re-optimizing might do. So that's another thing. Also, going back to the FastPass question that we had, another cool thing about our TouringPlans is that we actually recommend which attractions you should get a FastPass for. And doesn't it also recommend what should be maybe your 4th FastPass, your 5th one, or 6th one as well within the plan?
It does. So we have another question coming up that kind of covers this, that if you do a plan with no FastPasses, attractions that have high wait times, it's going to recommend that those are good attractions for FastPasses. And it's a recommendation just based on going, well, we know we're predicting a 60-minute wait. If you got a FastPass, you would wait less. It's not specifically saying at 11 o'clock you should get a FastPass for that attraction. Just that your plan would probably be better if you got a fast pass for it. So and the recommendations are going to probably be more options than you can actually select, but they're there as a guide for you to what fast passes to select. So there are some attractions and shows that it's just a waste of your time and a waste of your fast pass to get. That it's just a guide to help you know what you should pick.
Exactly. So we just kind of make those suggestions for you. And like you were kind of talking about, sometimes the plan will even tell you, like, don't use a fast pass here. It doesn't make sense. And I can't remember if I said this to Steve and Fred before we started or if I've said this live, but TouringPlans blogger, Christina Harrison, we call her Chrissy, we're doing a series. We're working on filming a YouTube series where we test out different touring plans at the different parks. And we're actually going to do a video where we do a touring plan without any fast passes to show you that you can still have a really good touring plan, still save time in line, and not use any fast passes. So if you have any ideas to add to that series, please let us know in the comments. And we're uploading to our Instagram stories throughout that kind of process too. So make sure you follow us on Instagram to kind of see what that's about there too. Okay, we'll keep moving on. And I will get to the comments after we answer a few more questions. So Fred and Steve, if you see any comments along the way that you want to answer, just keep those in the back of your mind. I can answer this next one. How does a room request work? We actually have a video on this. So if I don't get to it during this stream, I will put a link for the video and the link to the website in the comments somewhere. But yes. Basically, just you find your perfect room using our TouringPlans room finder, and then 5 days before your trip, we send a request of that room to Disney for you. So while success is not guaranteed, a lot of people do have success with it. We get Twitter comments all the time saying the luck that they've had with it. So it's kind of a little brief rundown about that. And then, do you have a plan for starting at the International Gateway at Epcot?
Yeah, so actually we did another video about rope dropping at Epcot. And we had some people start at the International Gateway and some at the main gate. And I think it surprised us as much as I would assume anybody else. It doesn't make a huge difference. It took the same, within a minute difference between getting to, I think we had somebody going to Frozen from both locations and to Soarin'.
Really?
And they pretty much met up at those attractions, not even trying to find each other.
Wow. Well, that's
yeah,
interesting.
and I don't think that actually would change throughout the day. I mean, we did it at rope drop, but pretty much any time of the day, if you're doing a touring plan, doesn't matter which entrance you go in, which, yeah, we were surprised.
Okay, we'll get to some comments now. Let's see. We have Ricardo from Buenos Aires, why am I stuttering over my words today? Lynette from Oregon, Kaylee from the UK, Stephen from St. Petersburg, Susan from Chicago, Alan from England, Belinda from Tulsa. Jason said, got this message today. Walt Disney World overall increase for crowds will decrease from a 3 to a 2. I would ask you to check your work on that because all the individual parks went up in crowds that day. That was for August 17th.
We'll go check on that later.
Yes, thank you. Are your August increases due to larger crowd numbers or Disney not running at full capacity? That's a good question. This is from Bart.
So some of the August increases went up because of the previews that are for annual pass holders for Galaxy's Edge.
That makes sense.
So that week went up a little bit because of that. There shouldn't have been any huge changes for August. If there are, it was probably due to Disney having longer park hours or something like that.
Blair said, are crowds up in December around the 10th or 11th at Magic Kingdom and Epcot due to a general increase from Rise of the Resistance? Epcot jumped from a 4 to a 7.
Yes. So there's going to be a slight time before the huge Christmas crowds that Rise of the Resistance, which is the second ride at Galaxy's Edge, will open. That time will be a time where locals will try to get into the parks before it's too crazy and crowded. So once December 5th happens, there's going to be a big impact on the crowds.
And I see that you actually answered that. I should have looked down a little farther.
Yeah,
Sorry about that. Well, it's good. We have it out there for the people who aren't looking in the comments. Let's see. Best way to plan when the optimized touring plan says to get a fast pass during extra magic hours. And I did want to say, because we had a little blip today, there is a spot in the touring plan where it asks you if you're going during extra magic hours, and you can either push yes or push no. So there is a way to say in the plan if you are utilizing extra magic hours. Sometimes that's people ask about that, so I wanted to point that out before we answer the question. So, best way to optimize a touring plan when it says to get a fast pass during extra magic hours.
So, reading the question, I had to go ask some of our other developers and ask exactly what does that mean. And what it is saying is that the wait time, you could get a fast pass. Obviously, you cannot use a fast pass during extra magic hours. So you could get a fast pass for that attraction later in the day. So it's not an error telling you to get the fast pass during extra magic hours. It's just saying you could better use your time if you rode that attraction during the day with a fast pass. Mm-hmm. So again, it's a recommendation. If you don't make a fast pass for then, what's in the optimized plan is the best time to ride it without a fast pass.
That makes sense. Sarah just asked a question that I can actually answer, so I'm excited about this. Sarah said, for Hollywood Studios, when they make all the rides Tier 1, can you just choose just 2 fast passes, 1 Tier 1, and the Star Tours, and will they let you choose another Tier 1? So this is what...
There's great debate even within our staff about this question.
Yes.
we kind of tested this. We had someone go to the parks and test this. She got 1 Tier 1, and then she used it, and then I think she could go back later in the day and get another Tier 1, and I think that it worked.
That is what we hear, but I still doubt it. But
would that have been then just like a fluke, or do you think they changed that? Because it was for the same attraction, too. Yeah, it was for the same. I think it was Toy Story Mania both times.
Yeah. So on August 30th, when Hollywood Studios opens at 6 a.m. to all guests, I have a 6:05 fast pass for Rock and Roller Coaster. So what else do you want to do at 6 in the morning except ride roller coaster? Then I'm going to try to get a second fast pass for Tier 1. We'll see if it happens. So we've had one person test it. So we assume it does work. We are saying it works.
Yeah.
But I'm still hedging my bets on that question.
Yeah, and just because it works right now doesn't mean it's going to work when we get, full-blown Star Wars Galaxy's Edge up and running with both attractions and all that stuff. So all of that information is subject to change for sure.
So if you wanted to play it safe and assume you have to use all 3 fast passes before you can get a 4th, and the 4th could be a Tier 1,
mm-hmm.
The way I would do it is get Slinky Dog or Rock and Roller Coaster, one of the headliners, for your Tier 1. For your Tier 2, get Star Tours. Actually, you can do any of these. I would get 2 Tier 2 ones that you can use early in the morning. So a lot of them are shows, which don't start until later. So you could get Little Mermaid, Star Tours, and Muppets
mm-hmm.
at Park Open. So even if you don't want to do Muppets,
you're doing Muppets.
You don't want to do, you can tap in and skip the ride, but that will check you off your list. So I would do Slinky right at Rope Drop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, assume we're going to use a fast pass for our first attraction.
Mm-hmm.
Use that while you're in line. Try to move up your other fast passes to earlier in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
When you use your second one, try to move your third one up earlier in the morning. And then you'll have your 3 fast passes out of the way hopefully within the first hour or so. Then we'll definitely be able to add your 4th fast pass for Tier 1.
Yeah. So it works right now, but this is all like before Galaxy's Edge. So everything's kind of up in the air. I also liked Steve's plan that he suggested. Gosh, this was probably like a month or 2 ago, where if you have park hoppers, to maybe make 2 mornings out of Hollywood Studios, where you kind of do the rope drop at Hollywood Studios and then save your fast passes for a different park later in the day.
Yeah, I expect Hollywood Studios non-Star Wars to be pretty much a ghost town for the first couple hours of the day. I really believe you can do the whole park without fast passes with minimal effort.
That would be like, well, imagine how busy, Toy Story Land was for so long, and if we can see some of those crowds a little lower, that would be nice.
Yeah, and having the extra for on-site guests that are morning risers, they're going to see some of the best touring ever at the parks. You're going to have 3 or 4 parks every day in this fall with extra magic hours in the morning.
Now, are we going to be filming some of that in August?
I am going to try to when I'm there in the end of August.
All right. Are you going to, Fred, in August?
Yes, I'm going to be there the 19th to the 21st.
Okay. All right.
So,
sounds good.
Yeah, I have my preview. I'm ready.
Awesome. Oh, that'll be exciting.
Yeah, so I overlap with the both of you. I don't know if the two of you overlap.
No, I come the 28th to the 31st. So if anyone is going in August for Galaxy's Edge or before, we're all going to be there. It's going to be exciting. Also note if there are any videos you want us to do together, because I know I've gotten a lot of requests for staff videos, but if you have specific ideas, let us know in the comments, and we'll see if we can make a few of those work for you. We have our own ideas, but I want to hear yours too. So this is a good one, this next question, and it's another that I get a lot. How do you fit a character meet and greet into our plan? A lot of people wonder why we don't have them for our touring plans. And we got a really good answer, so I'm going to let one of you talk about this.
Wow, you call it a good answer. I don't know if our listeners will agree with it. It's a
good
answer.
it's not a content answer, but it's an answer that I was happy to hear.
So we don't include meet and greets in the software because we don't have good data on the wait times for them. So there are some attractions that have permanent locations and wait times, and those attractions are in the software. But like several of the meet and greets that are not in a physical building, and they take breaks, a lot of like around the World Showcase, it's difficult to put into our plans because we just don't have good data knowing how long it's going to take you to wait. Mm-hmm. So if there is a character you want to meet and you're going to be in France and you want to meet Isabelle in France, mm-hmm. Add an extra 30-minute break in France so you have time to meet her. Or don't put the break in. When you're in France, basically pause your plan, go meet Belle, and then re-optimize when you're done. Because Belle is going to take breaks. There may be a line when she's not even there for people that are waiting for her next appearance. It's just very hard for us to know what your wait time is going to be. Instead of mm-hmm. telling you that you're going to have a 5-minute wait to see Belle, and you show up and she's not even there.
Yeah.
So that is our recommendation. Like I said, it's not the perfect answer.
But how can we calculate the waits for you when they're really inconsistent? I mean, it wouldn't be reliable data. So you would suggest you would suggest basically putting in a break and then in the notes putting like character meet and greet or something like that.
I would only put in the break if you know that, like in Steve's example, you know that when you get to France, no matter what the situations, you're going to wait. You really want to meet Belle in France. So add your break in because that's when you're scheduled to be there.
Okay.
But if it's the kind of thing where you just want to kind of be open to these experiences where if you happen to be in France and she happens to be there, you want to do it, then I think the second option is much better, which is you just abandon your plan, go do the experience and re-optimize when you're done.
Yeah.
It makes sense, and it works for any experience. Like there's lots of situations where you're wandering around the park and there's something going on and you want to go check it out. Mm-hmm. Go do it, and then when you're done, just re-optimize.
Yeah.
So, if your kid has to go to the bathroom, it is okay for you to abandon your plan, go to the bathroom, and then re-optimize.
Abort. Okay, so this is an interesting question. Is it true that Galaxy's Edge was a flop at Disneyland? Ooh, I don't know.
Wow, there's a big hidden question.
That is just blunt.
Yeah. I'll take that one. I would say no. I wouldn't consider that to be true. I think what we're hearing is that overall attendance at the park might be slightly down, but the new land, I think, is a success if you look at just the new land. It's very popular. It's getting relatively good reviews. Lots of people are going to check it out. The surprising part about Galaxy's Edge is what it's doing to the rest of the resort, which is not much. I mean, the rest of the resort has been very quiet compared to the new land. So I think there's kind of a bit of a garbled message in what's going on. But I think the new land itself I think it's a hit.
Although amazing.
I haven't seen it myself yet, so.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see it before we will. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, so I wrote a blog post actually on the subject somewhat, and my main point is Disney over-prepared. They prepared guests that it was going to be crowded. Mm-hmm. You weren't guaranteed entrance to the park or the land. You were going to have to make reservations, and it's not going to be finished. The best ride not open. Yeah. So I think with all of that, people are like,
well, we're just going to wait.
Yeah, we'll wait. So, and on top of all that, part of their planning was blockouts. They did not let employees go. A lot of the local passes were blocked out. So in Florida, Disney is actually pulling back some of the same thing they did in California. There was that warning about not getting in the park and not getting in the land due to capacity is nowhere to be seen on the Walt Disney World website anymore. And it was there. It was there.
Interesting.
So they're trying not for a repeat of the overly cautious users.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, that kind of worries me because, it was like on Easy Street, for like the 5,000 people that were in for the reservation period for the Disneyland opening, and I just feel, we're going to the opening for the Disney World one, and I'm just like expecting these high crowds now because they're not going to want, that same result that they had in Disneyland. So it's like giving me a little bit of like crowd anxiety thinking of that. So it's like, how do you find that happy medium, where it's not going to be too much?
Well, I think the other thing is Disney actually wants the craziness. Hogwarts had 6-hour waits, and Star Wars Land is a ghost town. That's not good PR. Right. Even though I would prefer a ghost town to 6-hour waits.
Yeah.
But you don't want too crazy either, right? You want to be an organized mess.
Well, it'll be an organized mess for the first couple of days.
That's true. But there's a big difference in the physical structure of the two properties. Like when you look at Disneyland, there's not much space, so there's a much higher risk of getting disorganized with the flow of crowds in and out of there. Disney World has the luxury of miles of empty space where they can, even within the parks, they have a much lower risk of getting any kind of overcrowding going on there. They can funnel people out certain places throughout the park. There's lots of
or even send you to a different park.
Yeah, so I think at World it's much less of a risk. I think that's part of the reason why Disneyland was so careful about controlling the hype is to make sure that they could control the number of people that showed up. They definitely overdid it, but I think World doesn't have that risk.
Another thing that I was at Hollywood Studios last week with Len and his sister, and I think at one point Rock and Roller Coaster was down, and I think Slinky Dog was down, and it kind of got us all thinking like that could easily happen because it was pouring rain, and that could easily happen, around the opening of Galaxy's Edge. And where are those people going to go, while they're waiting? I mean, that could have happened, I guess, at Universal too. I mean, that's a worse scenario because a lot of those rides go down when it rains. But where are those people going to go if 2 of those rides are down that are headliners? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, they're going to just basically spread out as any crowd naturally spreads out. They're going to go to different parts of the park. They're going to go inside. They're going to hit restaurants. They're going to hit restrooms. They're going to, they're just kind of going to flow into the empty spaces, wherever they can.
So you think they'll be able to accommodate that with Galaxy's Edge?
Well, it may not be pleasant, but
yeah, it's never going to be never pleasant. But we haven't seen Galaxy's Edge either, right? There might be a lot of spaces there where they can hide the people. I mean, they obviously are expecting a certain crowd in there on a daily basis. So I'm sure there's places for the crowd to go.
I guess we'll once we get a little more information closer to opening, we'll have to have you both back on to kind of talk more about the Disney World opening of Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, that'd be fun. It'd be fun to do it after all three of us have seen it, like sometime in early September.
Oh, that would be so fun.
Yeah, I think after a couple of days of seeing how the parks handle the crowds, we'll learn a lot.
And we'll be able to talk about the extra magic hours and kind of our thoughts about the little pockets of space and how we think that they'll handle those crowds. Ooh, let's do that. That sounds fun.
Should we give up Steve's secret that Steve is secretly planning a touring plan that's going to visit all 4 parks during Extra Magic Hour morning? Do you think it's possible, Steve?
I think it's possible. Hit Hollywood Studios at 6 a.m., then go do be in Magic Kingdom before 8 o'clock, go do Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, or do Animal Kingdom at 8 o'clock and do Flight of Passage. Then within that hour, hit to the opposite park, and then at 9 o'clock hit Rope Drop at Epcot. So I think you could do all 3.
I think it'd be possible. That'd be really cool.
All 4.
We so wanted to make that happen this month, and they didn't have that for all 4 parks, right?
No.
And it was like the 28th, right?
That's unheard of, having 4 parks with. I don't even know if they do that in December during Christmas. I mean, they have early openings, but extra magic hours. And it's not one of your questions, but it's going to be a real disadvantage to offside guests.
Yeah.
Having extra magic hours every day, you're not going to be able to rope drop Star Wars. Mm-mm. You're not going to be able to rope drop Pandora, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
Jen, she's one of my buddies. She said, how do you all feel about those extra magic hours and how they're going to affect crowds? She's a morning person, so, she's like, bring it. But folks on vacation don't typically like to get up early. So what do you think about that? I mean, we kind of talked about what it's going to do for people off-site, but crowds in general, what are you thinking? Are the crowds just going to get bigger sooner?
Well, I think since they're every day, they're going to be less special. So I think the individual extra magic hours is actually going to have lower wait times than they normally do, which is already low. And they're early. I mean, September is the slowest time. Them having 7 a.m. and 6 a.m. openings, people aren't going to want to get up. I'm a morning person. I love the idea. But it's going to be some of the slowest times. Yeah. So, like I said, at Hollywood Studios, from 6 to 9, which will be all extra magic hours, if they have the whole park open, I have a suspicion that Disney will actually pull back on their attractions during these extra magic hours, just because they're not going to have the attendance to keep them full.
Right.
So I could see maybe like Hollywood Studios will be a rolling start, that maybe only Toy Story Land and Star Wars Land is open.
Yeah. Because they're connected too, right? So it would make sense.
Hollywood Boulevard may not open until 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
If you're there the 30th, I will go check out extra magic hours with you. We'll film a video. But I will need a lot of coffee. And I'll try to be happy. Okay, let's get to some more questions. Any recommendations for a mixed age group, like people with young kids and those without kids?
Well, one recommendation I make for big groups, which could include a wide range of people, is don't feel like you have to do everything together.
Yes, that is great advice.
If you have some teenagers or young adults that want to go do the roller coasters that have height restrictions, maybe split up in the morning and have a plan to meet for lunch. And then in the afternoon, you tour together, something like that. There is, ride switch for young kids if you don't have the luxury of having the ability to split up or something. But feeling like you have to do everything with everybody makes touring much more difficult than frustrating.
And slow as well.
Yes.
And slow, yeah.
Steve, what would you recommend for if they wanted to do this within a touring plan? Would they make 2 separate touring plans, one for each half of the group, or would there be a way to do it with one?
I would probably almost say in my scenario that you're in the morning going to split up in 2 groups, in the afternoon do tour together. I would almost do 3 touring plans. So you'd have the headliner roller coaster touring plan, the dark ride kiddie touring plan, then the afternoon the all family touring plan.
That's a good idea. And there might be situations where you would want to use kind of our drag and drop feature, where you maybe want to optimize your plan, but you want to specify that everyone's going to do the same show, for example, at a certain time in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So you could, tell your teens, go and do your touring plan, ride the scary stuff,
yep.
but then meet back for Beauty and the Beast at this show or whatever. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I like that. Also, my aunt plans a trip for her family. That must be 13 people with kids of all ages, probably every 2 years. She uses a Disney travel agent. If you would like her to be on the podcast with Brian and I, if you don't know, we have a Touring Plans podcast. If you'd like her to come on the podcast to see how she plans for big groups at Walt Disney World and how that kind of works, just like this video, if you're thinking about planning maybe a family reunion at Walt Disney World and you'd like some tips and tricks and maybe hear how she does that, let me know, just like the video. Okay, let's see. I get confused with the walk time. The walk time listed is to that attraction or to the next attraction. So can you kind of explain maybe what they're talking about for people who don't know what that means, and then explain what they're referring to?
Yeah, so when you do a touring plan, it's going to give you a layout. Let me look at my screen real quick. And it will tell you your arrival time, your wait time, duration, free time, and walking time. So arrival time is just that. That's the time the plan is predicting you will show up to the attraction. Wait time is not the posted wait time on the sign. It is what we actually believe you will wait in the queue. Duration is the length of the attraction. And what we call the duration is based with not the pre-show. Pre-show is a part of the wait time. So like at Haunted Mansion, the duration of the ride is actually once you get into the dune buggy. The stretching room is still part of your wait. Even though it is an experience, it is a distraction while you're waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Then free time is sometimes our plans will space you out because you have extra time. So on a nice compressed touring plan, that free time is going to be 0. Then walking time is the time it's going to take you to the next attraction. So I have a plan up here. It shows that I would be at Everest at 9:09. The reason it says is I'm going to arrive at 9:09 is because the park opens at 9 o'clock and it's going to take me 9 minutes to walk to Everest. But then on that same row, it says my walking time is 10 minutes, which is the time it's going to take me to get to Avatar. And then it says I'm going to arrive at Avatar at 9:27.
Okay. Now, when I make my touring plan series, I will note all this in my first video for those wondering to kind of break that down a little better. And I'm actually going to rewatch this and write it all down because I kind of learned all that along with you. And I've used touring plans before, so it was a good reminder for me. Okay.
And there's another question about walking time that
yes.
I'll jump ahead while we're here. And I'm actually going to paste in the comments this data because...
I was just going to ask you to explain this one.
Okay. Maybe I won't paste it right now, but I will get it to... Or we'll get it out somehow. So somebody asked on the touring plans about when we have 4 different walking speeds, and they wanted us to explain what that means. They're estimates, and it's a little fuzzy math in there, and people's mileage is going to vary anyway. The walking speed does not take into account crowds, bathroom breaks, rain, if you're walking in the most efficient way, because you can get to one attraction more than one way. So it's kind of just a estimate for you for the touring plan. So I did some experiments in our software to get some examples. So, from Space Mountain to Big Thunder, which are pretty much opposite ends of the park, the range for walking between those two attractions in the software. So very relaxed. So you're pushing a stroller. You got kids that got to change. Hopefully for those two attractions, you're beyond diapers. But you've got things you're gonna have to do, but you know you're gonna stop. So the very relaxed would be 23 minutes. And then on the other extreme is fast walking. So you're a solo person. You know the park's like the back of your hand. We estimate 9 minutes. So that's a pretty big range of walking times.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got a stroller, you got EVCs, you've got a big party, you're going to want to lean on the more relaxed walking. If you're a smaller group, younger, you know, you're on top of your game, you might want to bump up to fast. Average is going to work for most people.
Okay. And you actually created like an image of this, didn't you? I think you wrote that.
Yeah, so I was trying to paste that text into the comments, and it got all blurred around. So we'll get that to you, and we can post it somewhere.
Okay, yeah, I'll post that maybe on like our Instagram or something because it's very helpful. I will for sure put it in our video that I'm making, and then you guys will kind of see. I would say that if for sure, like you mentioned, you're traveling with toddlers, kids, definitely do the relaxed speed. That's what we recommend most of the time. So yes, that is another question that we got several times in our Instagram questions for this. If posted weight is way higher than TouringPlans predicted weight, should you expect the posted weight or the TouringPlans weight in our app? So just quickly, we in our app, in the Lines app, we have like what the Disney posted weight is, which is normally kind of exaggerated a little bit, and then we have the expected weight that we kind of post. So just wanted to clarify what that meant, and then I'll let you answer the question.
Yeah, that's a good point, Angela, because this becomes a question of terminology. We get this question a lot, and usually what they're getting at is that we have an estimate for what your expected weight is going to be, what we call your actual weight. But then we also have in there a prediction for what we think the posted time is going to be, and that's based on all of the collected data that we've had over the years. So our estimate of what the actual amount of time you're going to wait in line is good. You should always use that. That's what we think you're actually going to wait in line. If you get there and the difference in the posted time is off, I wouldn't really worry about it too much, because the thing you only really care about is what your actual wait time is going to be. Mm-hmm. So there are lots of situations where our estimate of the posted time might not exactly be correct. Or that it's different from what you're observing at the Disney sign. Which one is, I suppose if ours is different, then technically we're wrong, because we're trying to predict what Disney's posted time is going to be. So in that case, I would focus more on what our estimate for the actual time is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one caveat I would add when reading the question and thinking about it, if that posted time is some crazy number, like we're saying it should be 30 minutes at Space Mountain and they've got 200 minutes posted up there, there's probably something wrong with the ride.
Yeah.
They haven't closed it yet, but they're trying to get people not to get in that line. So be a little cautious if you see a situation like that. I'm so glad you brought that up. Today,
Seven Dwarfs Mine Train was down, and it wasn't showing up on our app, and it wasn't showing up on my Disney experience. And Disney actually didn't even report it till 20 minutes after the fact. So, there are instances like that, too, that happens.
Yeah, we definitely, in our data, we can see over and over again where there'll be a spike in a wait time, and then the next report will be that it's offline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Another cool tip in this situation is that if you get there, if you're using the app and you get there and our estimate of the posted time and what you actually observe Disney's posted time, if it's different, submit a time to the app.
Yep.
Add it in, and then you can actually see it if our software will update our estimate of the posted time based on what you've submitted.
Yep, and I will say that, so if you download our Lines app, you can actually time your wait in line. So you start it when you get in the queue, and then you stop it right before you get on the ride. or as you're getting on the ride, whatever. And it actually makes the time in line a little more interesting because you're like, I'm being important, I'm helping, and that's a lot. That's how we kind of get our times, is because of people like you who time your waits using our app. So if you want to help us out at TouringPlans, time your waits in line. It's really nice. So yeah, what is another thing that I wanted to talk about? Here we go. How does arriving late morning using a touring plan and fast pass compare to rope dropping with no fast pass? Well, I kind of have a video about that a little bit. I have a video where I showed up at rope drop and I saw how many headliner attractions I could do with no fast pass before the park got busy. And I did like 4 or 5 without a fast pass. So, I mean, you can get a lot done if you rope drop a park, or if you do like, an early breakfast reservation. Like I think I ate at Be Our Guest, if you do like an 8 a.m. or something. But otherwise, I think Steve and Fred, you have other answers, so I'll let you take that on.
Yeah, I again, not a perfect answer. It really depends on your goals. Say you're going to Epcot and you're just doing World Showcase. It really doesn't matter when you arrive. It's kind of a casual, laid-back day anyway. Mm-hmm. If your goal is to hit every headliner, having a plan is going to help you. But yeah, those first hour, the first hour, especially if it's an extra magic hour, it's amazing how much you can get done before the crowds build up.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely true.
And one thing you can do, which, I mean, even you can use our touring plan software, even if you want to do not a plan type thing. You could do the scenario that you laid out there in that question, and you can evaluate it, and you can get a good estimate of what the difference would be as if you use fast pass or not versus rope. If you did rope drop without fast passes versus starting an hour late with fast pass, you could, for your preferences of attractions, you could get an actual number that would tell you which one took longer.
And that kind of goes along with our next question, which is how good are touring plans for people who get to the park an hour or so after opening? And they're very good for that. That's what you kind of were saying.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, no, they're great. They're great. I mean, they work anytime. The variation in how well the touring plans work depend directly on how crowded it is. So the more crowded it is, the more valuable your touring plan is, and also the more important that you stick to the touring plan. Mm-hmm. The lower the crowd level, the less important it is that you stick to it, and the advantage that you have over the general guest is also lower. So you can be much more relaxed. I mean, it makes sense, right? The less crowded it is, the more relaxed you can tour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is, I feel like I keep saying, I get this question a lot. I do get this question a lot. Should I use a plan for Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party? Do you have plans for these after hours events? Should I use a plan for these? If so, what's the best strategy for that?
So on our site, we do have at least 5 plans pre-made for the party events. Mm-hmm. I think, and they even go if you're, depending what your priorities are. If you're trying to ride the most rides, there's a plan that's going to get you on all the rides and do less of the shows and the other special activities for the party. And some parties are more crowded than the other.
Now, are the waits, since like the park is technically closed, are the wait times still accurate since the park is considered closed?
Yes, because they still post wait times during the parties. They don't have Fast Pass, which is actually another benefit, because 100% of the capacity of the ride is going through the standby queue, not being shared with So typically in those events, during those special parties and events, the wait's going to be lower just because there's less people in the park and there's no Fast Pass being used.
Yeah, this is one example where we can kind of break out the stats nerdy part of the stuff that we do, Steve, is because like during the day, there's this nice arc of crowd flow into the park where it's not very quiet in the morning, and then it builds in the afternoon, and then it kind of fades off into the day. For the parties, if you think about it, it's a fixed event with a fixed number of people that are going to be there, and so they all kind of go at the same time. They all do the same things. They kind of spread out. And so there's very little variation in the wait times throughout that block of time when they have the parties.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, there's much less of an advantage to try to reverse engineer that to optimize a plan through it. You can pretty much do the things, in your head that you want to do,
Right.
because there's not going to be much variation in the wait times.
Yeah, the reason I asked is because I just did the Villains After Hours event. Mixed reaction. I have a video about it that you can check out on our YouTube channel, which is here. But I noticed that I did Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger spin, and the wait time was 25 minutes. And then I just kind of walked on and got on the ride, and there was no wait. So
wow.
Yeah, so I was very surprised by that. And so that's why I asked about the wait times there, because it was very inaccurate there.
And a lot of the posted times, well, we're thinking that Disney is trying to use magic bands for the posted wait times.
Oh.
But I don't know if that's all worked out.
Mm-hmm.
But the old way, or maybe still the current way, has a lot of manual intervention in it.
Mm-hmm.
And if a cast member really is on top of it, they set 25 minutes when the party opened and nobody decided to say, oh, we have nobody in line, let's change it.
Mm-hmm.
So
that makes sense. Didn't we kind of see that with Animal Kingdom for a while with those wacky wait times at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, we think they were testing that sort of system.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get back to the comments for a little bit. WebPen said, just wanted to say thanks. Did 3 days in Orlando, 1 Epcot, and 2 at Universal, using the optimizer and evaluation tools, and the videos were very helpful. Well, thank you. That's so nice of you to say.
I've got one I want to answer.
Yeah, sure.
So Tyler's asking if the extra magic hours will be extended into January and February. I expect that the one misstep Disney is doing right now is all the extra magic hours. I think that they're going to be very low attendance at them, and Disney is going to overreact and not extend them. I have no data. I have no knowledge. That's just my
It's a feeling.
What I think Disney would have been better off to maybe alternate days of the extra magic hours, and then even have charged for the morning events.
Just gonna ask that.
On the other dates, they could have made some more money, and that would have actually given people off-site guests at least an option to get in there early.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's another question I hear more on Instagram is Disney going to do, are they going to do after-hours events after the extra magic hours, and are they going to do Galaxy's Edge focused events? It makes sense.
We assume the answer would be yes, but we haven't seen them yet.
Mm-mm.
I mean, that seems like Disney's leaving money on the table, and they don't do that very often.
Right. I mean, why would they? So you'd think no, and that they probably should and would do some kind of extra paid event instead. Yeah,
so maybe in January or February they'll start the paid events, but I don't think it's going to be every morning extra magic hours at 3 parks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd pay to do it. I would to try it
it's
out.
Too bad because, I mean, but that kind of theory follows with what we've seen in Disney the last probably decade, is that things are always, the best deal is always as soon as it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is going to open, they're going to try these, they're going to be great, and then they're going to go away. That's kind of, the pattern that we've seen, is that the best deal is always in the early stages of something new. Once it gets old, it tends to go away. So
basically you're saying take advantage of those extra magic hours, even if you're like me and you're not a morning person.
Let's go.
Buck up, drink that coffee.
Take a nap.
Yeah.
You can sleep when you're dead.
Just make it an all-nighter. Stay up late and just go right to the park and then crash it.
Yep. Steve and I, we're going to be filming early in the morning. You're going to see Krabby and
I'm going to have 2
Angela.
teenagers with me. I don't think you will see them at 6 o'clock.
I'm making my brother come with me. He's going to film us. Okay, so we have some food and wine questions. Melinda said, do you have the food and wine festival stands and the touring plans under add a meal? Is that under seasonal for the touring plans? Would that be under?
I don't believe we add those as separate because they change so often.
Yeah.
From year to year. So if you know that you want to tour around and want to add them into a plan, you're going to have to add them manually. 95% of the people that do it, though, would just do it in either clockwise or counterclockwise, whichever way you tour Epcot. There's no, I mean, you're not going to double back and, do
Yeah, the optimizer really, if we did include it, the optimizer really wouldn't, because
it would just go in order of that they appear, So.
It would be better for you to just block out half a day to do food and wine if that's your plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some great tips on our blog. I want to say a lot of them are from Tessa Coton about food and wine. She just has some just awesome. Just type in food and wine on our blog because they have tips such as getting there right at when the World Showcase opens, I believe 11 a.m. for it. And don't start right at kind of the entrance because those are the ones that are kind of going to, fill up first. Go a little deeper in and then start there. And yeah, so lots of good tips. Just look on our blog for those. Okay, here's a good Hagrid's ride. And I know that you guys kind of answered one in the comments, but for those who haven't been reading the comments, what do you think about this idea? When Hagrid's opens at Park Open instead of midday, if Studios has the early hour, can you via Hogwarts arrival from King's Cross to Hogwarts and hop in the Hagrid's line? That was really confusing for me to read. I hope that made sense.
It kind of does, yes. I don't know for a fact that you can do that. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? Can you be
the thing about Hagrid,
the biggest with Hagrid is just getting there when it's open.
Right.
That's the problem.
That's really the biggest
operational problems all over the place, and so it's just kind of a hit and miss to see if you can get there when it's operating. That's the challenge.
Has that gotten any better with Hagrid's? Like, has it been open more? Or is it still kind of open a little less and they're just working on it more?
I haven't looked at the data lately, but I've actually wanted to look at that and make a blog post about showing the operating probability of the ride.
I think we lost Fred.
Oh.
We lost Fred, you guys.
He
didn't want to talk about Hagrid's anymore. He was maybe. Oh, okay. He's still here. Good. Okay.
Made a comment.
Yeah. All right. Fred's around. All right. Yes. Well, he'll be in the comments then, hopefully answering a few questions. Yeah, Hagrid's has been such a bummer though. I know Brian. We talked about this on our podcast. He was at Universal for 5 days, which is actually a really long time for a vacation there. He kind of, after doing his trip for 5 days, he kind of figured you probably don't need that much time at Universal for a family trip. But he said for the first 5 days, Hagrid's had just opened. He didn't get to ride it once because there were so many issues with the attraction. So if you want to listen to that, you can just, I think we'll have a link after this stream for our podcast. So, okay, next question. How do you know which FastPass to pick after the first 3? Well, we kind of answered that a little bit earlier on. The touring plan will make suggestions to you for which attractions would be good to get a FastPass for. But also, like Steve said, there won't be much of a selection either if it's like midway through the day. So try to pick something that you still need to do or something that you might want to ride again. Also, I got a question on Instagram saying that there are certain rides that they won't let you repeat. There was this rumor. So, Steve, maybe you can help me put this rumor to rest. Someone said that Disney's not letting you repeat attractions or for Flight of Passage. And that's not true, right?
I have not experienced that.
Yeah.
I think probably what's more likely is that after you use one FastPass for Flight of Passage, they're sold out by the time you have the option to get more.
Right. That makes a little more sense. Oh, and Fred said, I'll monitor the chat. Send me your questions. Thank you, Fred.
And now, maybe where that rumor was coming from is when you're pre-planning and making your 3 FastPass selections, that will not let you pick the same attraction twice.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, so that was a very weird one. I received that I think yesterday, so I wanted to get to the bottom of that. When a touring plan does not use your FastPass, how do you deal with this? Do you skip the FastPass? What do you think?
I think you can just skip it. I mean, certainly, say you have a 10 o'clock fast pass for Star Tours, and the wait time is 5 minutes for Star Tours. You can go through they will let you click in at Star Tours and walk through the Star Tours fast pass line. Mm-hmm. Most likely you're going to walk all the way down the queue. At the merge point, you will not have passed anybody. It really wouldn't have mattered. Mm-hmm. Now, a benefit of tapping in and using it is for that getting your 4th fast pass. So not using it is actually a little bit of a penalty. It's better to delete it or change it. But if you don't use it, you're going to have to wait till it expires until you can get another fast pass and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's probably better not to just not do anything with it.
Yeah.
So most benefit thing would be to try to find something else that you can use that fast pass slot with.
Okay. And there is an option in the touring plan to force it to use the touring plans and factor that into the plan. So if you're like, nope, these are the ones I picked, I don't care what the plan says, I want to use them, you can force the plan to use your touring plans. I just wanted to point that out.
You mean fast pass?
Oh yeah, the fast pass. Whoops, I was looking at the questions. Yep. How to treat a touring plan for rope dropping extra magic hours. This is also something we talked about a little bit, but I'll still let you talk about it.
Yeah, I was a little, kind of the same thing that we said before, that sometimes your first attraction, the touring plans just doesn't know when you're going to arrive.
Yeah.
So if you know you're going to, either at park opening, a regular park opening, or an extra magic morning opening, if you know that you're going straight to Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, you don't need to bother the software to tell you that at 8 a.m. that you need to be at Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Mm-hmm. Set your start time at 10 minutes after the park opens, and let it tell you that your next attraction should be, Peter Pan or whatever it is, and not
just start
not
at
question
step
why.
2.
Yeah, because it's going to not assume that you're going to be at the front of rope drop.
Yeah.
And it may see that it's better to do Seven Dwarfs Mine Train 30 minutes into the park instead of at park opening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I've had that happen with my plans before. And I frantically messaged Brian. I'm like, why is it doing that? And he said the same thing. With a midday break, is it better to put the break into the plan or make a 1 a.m. plan and make 1 p.m. plan?
So it's better to do one plan because it's going to decide what's better to do in the AM part of your day versus your PM of the day, assuming you're doing the same park. Mm-hmm. Our software will not let you do multi-parks or multi-days in a plan. Mm-hmm. So in those cases, they would have to be separate plans.
Right.
But if you're going to be in the Magic Kingdom, you're going to go back to the hotel and go back to the Magic Kingdom in the evening, unless there's specific, maybe in like Epcot, you want to just do World Showcase in the afternoon. That you're going there for dinner, you're just going to relax. Then do a separate plan because it really, it's a separate touring strategy.
Right.
If you're just trying to optimize how to do all these attractions, it's likely going to tell you to do the headliners early in the morning or late at night.
Right.
And it's going to decide which is better to do when.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dale had a question. Can you talk about using FastPass with Rider Switch? Can you still split FastPasses? I did film a video when I was at Walt Disney World next week about Rider Switch, so that's something that I will get to. Reading our literature on the Touring Plans website, I believe that everyone in the plan has to have a FastPass for the attraction if you're going to be in the FastPass line. Can you just confirm that for me, Steve?
Unfortunately, I have old kids, so I've never used Rider Switch.
I hadn't either, because my kids, I'm just like, well, we all want to ride.
So, I know one hack that people were doing, and now if Disney shut it down, I'm all for shutting down hacks, but I love hacks, and I'll use them if they work. Was that you didn't need a fast pass for everybody going through. You could basically, the parent going and the kid that was swapping could get the fast pass, but then the second ride through, those people could just use the rider swap pass,
right,
and not show the fast pass.
Right.
So I could see how the hack works. Now, if Disney came up with a solution that requires you to use but then why would you even use the rider swap if you need a fast pass for it anyway, because you're still going through the fast pass line.
Exactly. You could just have them ride and then the other person go. But from, now, in case you didn't know, Rider Swap has kind of changed and it's more digital now. From what I was reading about it, everyone with a fast pass for the ride has to scan. Or if you want to do Rider Swap, everyone has to have a fast pass for the attraction. So technically, that's the way it has to be done. Can it still be done Steve's way? Debatable, I guess. So Dale, I'm sorry, I don't think we really have an answer. But if you guys have done Rider Swap and you've done it that way, let us know in the comments. Because you guys know just as much, if not more, than I do. So let us know.
Yeah, I mean, if you were thinking about it, Rider Swap really should be only for the standby line. So the second group doesn't have to be in the standby line a second time.
Right. It makes more sense that way. Otherwise, kind of like, why use it?
Yeah, I mean, if you're... Yeah, but again, I haven't used it. I have read the stuff and heard the hacks, and I do use hacks, but them shutting them down is the right thing and makes it better for everybody.
Yeah, makes it more fair.
But if the hacks work, take them.
Should we be promoting this here? Okay, let's see. Fast passes and park hopping. That was the question. It just says fast passes and park hopping. That was it. But you have notes.
Yeah, I had notes. So I kind of this. So I think the question is, when should you book your fast passes if you're hopping between two parks? Because if you're when you make fast pass reservations, you can only choose one park. So one train of thought is you want your fast passes as early as possible so you can make extra fast passes later. So if you have to basically assume, are you going to be able to get more fast passes or not? Mm-hmm. I pretty much go in the mindset that the best fast passes are going to be gone by the time I'm ready to make more fast passes. Mm-hmm. So I look at it as you've got three fast passes a day. Anything else is just icing, but don't assume there's going to be anything that you want.
Right. Gonna get all the cast offs. Getaways.
So I personally use fast pass. So if I'm an early person, so if you do rope drop in the morning, I would do fast pass at the second park. If your day split up where you show up in the afternoon and then come back in the evening, mm-hmm. I basically want to use my fast passes in the middle of the day. So if the middle of the day is your first park, then use your fast passes then. If your middle of the day is your second park, use them in your second park.
That's so interesting to me because I'm always in the mindset like, I got to get them done by like noon so I can make more. But I mean, what you say makes sense. I mean, it's just going to be like cast-offs when you go make more because everything's kind of done with. But that makes so much more sense. My whole mindset's changing now. We did get replies about Rider Switch that I wanted to talk about. Amanda said the advantage of still using Rider Swap with FastPass is the ability to use FastPass after your original window. Getaways with Angela said, I've successfully tried Rider Switch with one of our children not having a FastPass in early July. But did one of you have FastPass, like another adult or a child? And she said it worked. And then Windy City Ashley said, I used Rider Switch last August. We had one parent have the FastPass, and we got a second FastPass for the other parent to use for the next hour. So, sounds like the hack still works. It's good to know. Okay, awesome. Let's see. Why do they direct to smaller rides at Rope Drop before headliners, i.e. Nemo before Soarin'?
I think it's kind of what we've mentioned before, that it's assuming you're not going to be the front of the pack at Rope Drop. Yeah, we've kind of covered that a few times. And then we talked about walking paces, so we're good. Let's see. How often can you do all that is on the plan? That's a good question. Oh, and Getaways with Angela said 3 out of 4 of us had a FastPass and all 4 of us rode. Okay, thank you for the update. I appreciate that. How often can you do all that is on the plan? Under expected conditions, you should be able to do everything on the plan. Mm-hmm. Now, when a ride breaks down, there's weather, your lunch ran longer, it's possible that you're going to get behind schedule. But statistically saying, our estimate should put you just as much ahead of schedule as behind schedule.
Yeah.
So somebody asked about padding the end of the day just to kind of give you that, if it may not be a bad idea, because one thing that when I was doing another blog post and doing a bunch of optimized plans, the touring plans will actually put breaks in the day even if you didn't ask for them. If you say you're going to be at park the whole day and you have 10 attractions, it's going to space out those 10 attractions so you wait the least amount of time. That may mean that it's going to give you a 2-hour break at noon that you didn't ask for.
Mm-hmm.
So if you said that you're only going to be there until 6 o'clock for those 10 attractions, it's going to make those 10 attractions work. You're going to finish your plan sooner, but your total wait time is going to be higher.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you wanted to make sure your plan would always fit, you could say that you're going to end your plan an hour before the park closes, and that would give you a little bit of cushion in case things start taking longer than we expected.
Well, and what I do, because I'm an overachiever and I always want to do as much as I can, is when I make a personalized plan, I put in how long I'm going to be there. So like say 10 to 6. And then I put absolutely every single thing I want to do in the plan. And then it will tell you, like, you may not have time for everything in your plan. It's very honest. And then from there, you can kind of delete things and kind of revamp your plan. Be like, okay, well, I don't really need to do this. I don't really need to do that. And then kind of go from there. Or maybe, you're like, okay, well, maybe I can make a little extra time in this plan, change a reservation I have over at Epcot. And then that's what I really like about personalized plans, is that you can build your own day that way. Which I don't know if we even mentioned personalized plans, but yeah, you can create your own. Let's see. Is the timeline accurate for, what the plan provides?
It should be. Yeah, I mean, again, it's, we're using the best data we can.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of, unexpected things that we just don't know is going to happen. The Brazilian tour group that got in right ahead of you, you're not...
Yeah, they're huge groups. I mean, you can't prepare for that. So, I mean, that might disrupt things a little bit.
Right. And that really, going through all your questions, I kept saying the same answer over and over again to re-optimize. Yeah. Be flexible, even with the plans. If something looks off to you and we're telling you to get into Splash Mountain, but you don't see any vehicles moving, but they're letting you get in the queue, yeah, you may want to make an audible and just skip that and hope,
Okay. Go back later or something.
Yeah.
Exactly. Advice showing how to make changes and decisions on the fly to plan. How easy are they to change throughout the day? Those are kind of things that I'm going to address in this video series, because that kind of stuff happens. Like, what do you do if an attraction is down when you get there? What do you do with the plan? And eventually, I think at the end of this series, I will make a video that says, what do you do, like, if X happens, hopefully that will help you out. And if you have, questions that you want me to answer, like, what do you do if this happens with my plan? What do you do if this happens at the parks? Let me know, and I will add that to my video for that. How do you predict future crowd patterns for unopened areas of the parks?
So this part of it's guesswork, to be honest. But what we do look at other similar attractions and similar lands. So, like, for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, we have seen what happened in California. So we have an idea how the wait times are going to go through the day. So in California, there's a steep increase in the wait times, and by 10 o'clock, they start tapering off through the rest of the day. So if you show up at Galaxy's Edge at 9:30 because you couldn't get into the 6 a.m. extra magic hours, you're going to be better off trying to wait till 2 or 3 or 5 in the afternoon to ride it than hitting it the first thing of the park.
Mm-hmm.
Like for Hagrid's, we looked at the opening of the other Harry Potter rides. That, how we came up with the estimates. Could we estimate how often it was going to break down? No.
Mm-mm.
And yeah, as we get more data, our models become better predictors.
Yeah. And speaking of Galaxy's Edge, Will you be adding touring plans to Galaxy's Edge for Walt Disney World? People are wondering if we have that for Disneyland. Yes, and we've had touring plans for Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland for a while now. Do we have them for Walt Disney World?
So I know we have it in the optimized plan, so you can add the Galaxy Edge attractions to a optimized touring plan. Now, some of our premium plans, which are the plans we've pre-built, I don't know if we've published any Star Wars ones. My recommendations for Galaxy's Edge is kind of block out half a day and just experience it. You can make a plan, but the data right now is such in flux, and it is very much just estimates on what wait times are going to be. Just kind of block out that time and use that in the land. Mm-hmm. If your trip's not until January, just sit back and don't make your plans this early. That by January we're going to know how the wait times are going to change, and your plans will be more accurate, closer to your trip.
I can answer the next one because my kids are very similar in age. Going with a 2 and a 4-year-old, how should we use a touring plan when anticipating mini curveballs? Yes, I know the feeling. Kids, you have to be very flexible with. Definitely add breaks into your plan because kids need snacks all the time. They're always hungry. So add breaks and choose that slowest walking time. I think it's like very relaxed because it's just going to take you longer with a stroller, bathroom breaks, or whatever. And make sure that you re-optimize pretty often so that you can get those adjusted wait times and, how your plan might change, because you need to be flexible with kids because someone might be hot or have a meltdown or want a snack or whatever. So just, be flexible. You'll be okay. Yeah. Let's see. Well, we just have a few more questions, and then I think we might finish up. Just so y'all know. Let's see. How do you decide which rides to do for Fast Pass versus which rides to do right at park opening? I can answer half of this. A lot of times the plan will, all the time the plan will recommend which ones to get a Fast Pass for, but that doesn't really accommodate rope drop. So
I kind of had two thoughts on this. One, there's probably some rides you don't want to do a rope drop, like a 6 o'clock rock and roller coaster Fast Pass.
Yeah.
But so there's going to be some attractions you don't want to do in the morning, so that's probably a good choice to do Fast Pass for. Then on the flip side, there's sometimes attractions that by the time you're going to make your reservations that are not available. Mm-hmm. So therefore you might have to do Pandora Flight of Passage at rope drop because you can't get a Fast Pass.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of a combination of, do you want to get wet at rope drop, or would you rather get a Fast Pass and do the Cali River Rapids, at the end of the day, so it's refreshing and not dripping wet all day. So I don't think there's a hard and fast answer to that. Obviously, if you could get a Seven Dwarfs Mine Train Fast Pass for the afternoon, that's great. Mm-hmm. And then you can rope drop probably several other attractions in that morning and be more advantaged. You could do Peter Pan and Space Mountain, and so it's kind of chicken or egg sort of situation. What can you get and what do you want to do?
Right. Yeah. So probably go with what you can get for Fast Passes and then kind of rope drop the rest that you couldn't get.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much what ends up is that, Fast Pass what you couldn't get.
That makes sense. I have a question in the comments that I kind of wanted to touch on. This is by 7 Designs. Would you need to use the room request for Contemporary, the Disney's Contemporary Resort? Looks like all rooms have a great view. Our room finder and our room request feature isn't just for, showing our room views, although we do have room views of the rooms. It also kind of tells you how close it is to the lobby, if it's a connecting room, if it's loud, if it's on the first floor, the second floor, so it tells you a lot of features, how far it is from transportation. So with that room finder, it tells you a lot about the room, as not just the room view. So yes, I would say that you still would need it for the Contemporary when picking out your perfect room. And it tells you if it's a preferred room, a standard room, stuff like that. So
the other thing with the room requests.
Yeah.
You can request things other than a specific room. Say that your most important thing is that you need connecting rooms. You really don't care where it is. Put that in the room request. Don't say, I want room 502 and 503. Just say, these are my 2 reservation numbers. Put them together. They need to be together. Or, I don't want to be by the elevator. You've been there before. It's allowed by the elevators. You want to be at the end of the hall. You can just say that. And, our room request, the default text in the message is going to give specific room numbers, but you don't have to use it that way.
And I did want to point out that when the room request feature doesn't work, consider, if the resort is full, or if you're requesting a preferred room and you booked a standard room. There are a lot of different reasons where it might not work, but from the comments that I get daily on our social media, we have great success with it. People are really happy. They use it every time that they book a room at Walt Disney World, and we have very happy customers. So I just did want to point that out, though, for reasons that it might not work or be successful. But yeah.
And then there's a lot of times they'll give you the adjacent room or the same room but on a different floor.
Yeah. I didn't think about that either. Can you make time for Bibbity Boppity Boutique or Pirates League in a touring plan?
We've talked about it, but right now, no. But there's a workaround. So if you set a break, or what I prefer to do is make a dining reservation, because then you can specify the location. Mm-hmm. So if you have a 2:00 appointment for Bibbity Bop's Boutique at the castle, you could make a 2:00 dining reservation at the castle, and then your touring plan is going to know where that break is, and just make a note to yourself in the plan that, no, we don't have dining reservations. We're really taking Susie to Bibbity Bop, Bibbity Boop.
I'm just going to call it a Bibbity Bop's Boutique now. Yeah. Bibbity Bops. I couldn't find the room request button on the site. Do you do room requests through the site, or do we call them ourselves? We submit the request for you. When you go to the room finder, you go, say you're staying at the Polynesian, click on the Polynesian, pick your room. There's like below the room that you picked. Sorry, I'm holding my chapstick. There's like a little, it's all in the video that I made. There's like a click here button, a copy and paste. Maybe Fred, if you're watching, you could find the video, or you could find the link for that and kind of put it below. I don't want to clickety-clack on my keyboard because it's really loud. But what I'll do is, after this, I will post the link to the video in the description box, and then
here's a
quick
tip also on that. So if on the site, if you make a trip, so then you'll have a dashboard that will actually show your days there, and can keep adding stuff to it. If you say what resort you're at in your trip, there will actually be a box that says configure fax, and that will start the room request.
Okay, yeah.
So the configure fax is really room requests. So the way Disney takes room requests are not by phone calls, only by fax.
Yeah.
So since most people don't have fax machines, we thought it'd be a nice thing to offer people.
This seems not very innovative, considering.
Well, they really don't want to encourage it, so.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, I think we just have maybe 1 or 2 more questions. How do you create plans for more than 2 days? I want to do 4 days with different rides each day.
So you have to make them separate plans.
Mm-hmm.
So one way would be, if you know that you want to do different rides on different days, split the park in half by lands or whatever, and just select those rides for each day. Most parks, you can do a lot of the rides in one day. So the way I would probably split it up is day 1, do all your must-dos,
mm-hmm.
and then that night, make a plan for your second day. Like, what do we want to re-ride? What was great? And then add stuff to it, and then you kind of, maximize your time instead of going, oh, we've got 5 hours of touring today at Magic Kingdom because we're only doing 2 lands,
Yeah. And then you can make sure that you get to do all the things that you really loved. Good. Yeah. That's a good way to prioritize. And then what do you do if a ride is down? What do you do via the app? I can answer this one because I found out the answer today. You can tell the app that the ride is down by sending in a wait time of it being closed. Say Disney hasn't updated My Disney Experience, so it hasn't shown up yet. You can just tell the Lines app that the ride is down by sending in a wait time saying it's closed, and then the app will adapt. Oh, it's funny. And then re-optimize your plan. So say that it's closed by submitting a wait time, then re-optimize, and then go from there.
And then our software actually looks at prior closures and estimates how long it will be closed.
Really?
It's just yeah. So the optimizer will actually go, oh, this ride's going to be closed for 70 minutes. It will actually try to put that ride later in the day so you can still ride it. So when you optimize it, it's going to say, okay, right now at 2 o'clock it's closed, but we expect it to be open after 3 o'clock. It will re-optimize. When you re-optimize, it will actually just move that attraction further down in your plan.
Oh, that's cool. Because when that happened to me, I didn't know the answer when I did this. Gosh, it was like last year. So I think I just deleted Seven Dwarfs Mine Train because I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. But knowing now, that's way helpful instead of having to add it later. But yes, I think that's all we have for today. I know that you still have questions. I'm so sorry we didn't get to them. But we will have Steve and Fred on maybe a different time if that's okay with you, Steve.
Sure.
And then we will definitely have you both back when it comes to talking about Galaxy's Edge and our findings, especially with those extra magic hours and more. But yes, I hope that you enjoyed our live stream, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.